Today's read aloud is King Hugo's Huge Ego. And an ego is kind of like what you think about yourself. So if you have a huge ego, you kind of think you're the best. King Hugo's Huge Ego. Long ago, when people spoke the words like that, there lived a king named Hugo, who was only 3'3". And though this mini monarch stood no higher than an elf, his ego was enormous. He thought very highly of himself. So he's 3'3", so he would be really short, shorter than any of you. Yes, Hugo was a cocky king, as boastful as could be. To him, no other person was as wonderful as he. He made his subjects bow to him whenever he was nigh. It pleased him to look down on them each time that he went by. So he made them bow so he could be taller than them. And every Friday morning at precisely 10:30, his guards called all the people to the tower base, and then King Hugo cleared his throat and gave his captive congregation a lengthy talk he liked to call the speech of adoration. For hours, the poor villagers endured the boring buzz of how mighty and magnificent King Hugo thought he was. One day King Hugo climbed aboard his coach of gleaming gold to watch the peasants bow to him as down the road he rolled. But when he turned a corner by a field of amber hay, a maiden with a lovely load was blocking up the way. I noticed that the story has a lot of rhyming words, like hay and way, gold and rolled. Every other line, it's an A B rhyme schema for my reading class. So remember that. The heralds blew their trumpets, then called out to the lass, "Step aside and bow your head, allow the king to pass." The girl, whose name was Tessa, said bluntly, "Go around." She didn't want to drop her load and bow down to the ground. The king began to rant and rave and spout and spit and sputter. That's alliteration. Spit, sputter, spout. "Roll on," he barked, and then they bumped poor Tessa to the gutter. He landed in a revolt. Oh, what a muddy mess. But little did the King Hugo know she was a sorceress, the kind with special powers, like a wizard or a witch. So she cast a spell upon the king while mirrored in the ditch. "On pox on you, O cocky king, in robes and ruby red. Let's see if you and your arrogance can fit inside your head." So if you're arrogant or cocky, you think, again, a huge ego. You think very highly of yourself. You think nobody is better than you. The next day, when the king awoke, he climbed down from his bed. He gazed into his looking glass admiringly and said, "I do believe, dear Hugo, you're more handsomer than last night." But when he pulled his crown back on, it felt a little tight. Then he donned his crimson robe with emery fringe. "How grand I am!" the king exclaimed, then felt a little twinge. His crown seemed even tighter now, yet Hugo didn't care. He hollowed from the window to the people in the square. "Say, who's the most majestic king? 'Tis I, you must admit." But when he put his head back in, it almost didn't fit. He's a big head, right? His ego is so big it makes him have a big head, which is an idiom. It doesn't mean what it exactly says. It doesn't could have a big head, but when you say a person has a big head, it usually means they are arrogant, cocky, have a big ego. Every time he claimed to be the greatest in the land, the king perceived a tingle and felt his head expand. But he continued bragging in an overstated way, so his head kept bulging bigger every day. Every time he gloated, head got bigger. By Friday, Hugo's head was as huge, but still he didn't know that his self-directed compliments had caused his head to grow. His speech of adoration was scheduled as before, but when he reached the tower, he could not fit through the door. He marched across the courtyard to climb the open stair, then he called people to the wall and gave his speech from there. "Behold, my lovely subjects, and do not doubt thine eyes, for my noble noggin has increased tenfold in size. I know not how this happened, but now there's even more. of your absolutely fabulous King Hugo to adore. It sounds like he doesn't care, and he's still doing what he shouldn't be doing. The more he talked, the more he grew, till suddenly a squall hit the king's giant head and pitched him off the wall. He floated freely through the air, then landed with a thud. He bobbed and dipped and flipped and skipped and toppled through the mud. He tumbled topsy-turvy as he bounced across the lane and ended up by Tessa, who was busy stacking grain. King Hugo's head was spinning. He felt dizzy, dazed, and beat. But when he noticed Tessa, he yelled, "Get me to my feet!" Tessa wandered over. "Unbelievable," she sighed. "Did you ever stop and wonder why your head is 10 feet wide? It's your ego. It's annoying. So I cast a little spell, and every pompous thing you've said has caused your head to swell." "That's ludicrous, ridiculous, preposterous, insane. I'm humbler than anyone," the king snapped in disdain. "I'll prove it to you," she replied. "You've been this way for years. Just listen," ordered Tessa. Then she grabbed and tweaked his ear. So if you're humble, you're kind of opposite of having a big ego. So a humble person doesn't boast or brag. Suddenly, a blast of air exploded from his head, along with all the haughty things King Hugo had ever said. "Bow down, praise me. I'm so magnificent. I rule, glorious. Look at me." King Hugo's head deflated like a giant pink balloon, and when he heard what he had said, he felt like a buffoon. Sheepishly, he said to her, "I do apologize." Then he looked at Tessa with his big, sad puppy eyes. The glances met, and instantly she felt her heart go zing. Could it be deep down inside she kind of liked the king? What? The king got up. He took her head and bent down on his knee. He gazed at her with tendencies that spoke most humbly. "Your spell has opened up my eyes. I've been unkind and rude. Please stay with me and teach me how to change my attitude." What happened next was kismet, yet truly unforeseen. He became a better man, and she became a queen. They ruled the kingdom kindly in a fair and friendly way, and everyone lived happily forever and a day. The end. See you tomorrow.